Hi, this is Dr. Liza Sehizo from Psyche Electro-Acoustic Opera Company, and you're watching episode 2 of Building a Standalone Podcasting App in Max 8. Episode 1 covered the fun part of this project, which is to take care of the audio visualizers for your podcast video. I decided to skip to the most difficult part of the project in this episode, which is to configure your Max Patch for screen capture and to construct the AV recording module for your patch. With this module, you will not need any other software to record your podcast. You will be able to run your podcast and export a video file right in Max. You won't need Zoom, you won't need QuickTime, you won't need any other type of screen capturing software. It will all be contained in your Max patch. So let's begin. Okay, so we're going to begin by preparing our Max window for screen capture. Now, at first, I wanted my video to have a square aspect ratio, but after further consideration, I decided to go with a 16:9 aspect ratio. Why? Because all of the long form platforms where I would post a podcast onto, like YouTube or Vimeo, natively accepts 16:9 videos. So we're going to adjust our patch for that aspect ratio. So what I'm going to do now is go up on the top of my frame and maximize my Max window so that it takes up my entire computer screen. What I'm going to do next is unlock my patch and move all of the stuff that's going to go into my control panel off screen. And then I'm going to resize my audio visualizers. So here we go. Unlock the patch. I'm going to drag my mouse over all of this stuff here, and I'm just going to drag it over off screen. I'm just going to push it off screen. Let's see. Okay, it's effectively off screen. Now I'm going to resize this stuff. These I'm going to put in the corners. I'm going to pinch them in a little bit in case when I do my frame cropping that none of my text gets cut off. I'm going to align that with this. All right. And I'm going to make my logo a little bigger. That might pixelate it a bit, but it doesn't bother me too much. And I'm going to center it more or less. Okay, that's perfect. And so I'm going to take a moment to save my work. Okay. So now we're going to create a module that will screen capture everything within this Max frame. And the main object in that module is called jit.desktop. All right, so let's unlock our patch and bring in jit.desktop. Let's put it here on the side of what's going to be our control panel. What jit.desktop does is pour the images in our patcher window into a jitter matrix. So we have to define how many cells are in the matrix, and the number of cells in the matrix should match the resolution of your computer screen. My computer screen has the resolution 1280 by 720. If your resolution is 920 by 1080, that's what you should put in there. If it has a lower resolution, you got to match up those numbers inside your jit.desktop. Okay, so let's set up the default cell configuration of our jitter matrix by entering our resolution, the resolution of our computer screen, as an argument here in jit.desktop. My screen is set up to put out at 1280, 720. You got to enter your screen resolution there. Now we're not done yet. With digital video, you're dealing with RGB alpha values for every pixel. So I have to tell my jitter matrix that this is a type of information we're going to be dealing with in this jitter matrix. All right, so now we have to add the argument for char, which means 4 characters of information per matrix cell, and the 4 stands for RGB alpha. If you forget to put this argument in, when you export your video, it's going to be all distorted. So don't forget this argument. Okay, so jit.desktop needs a metronome. So we're going to bring in a Q metro. We're going to give it an argument of 20 milliseconds. We're going to give Q metro a toggle. All right. And now we're going to set up a temporary video output with jit.desktop. We're not going to keep this output. We're going to use it, however, to crop our screen capture area. And after we've cropped our screen capture area successfully and exported a successful recording, we'll get rid of it so there is no superfluous stuff happening in your patch. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a jit.p window. I'm going to give it the shape of my patcher window, and I'm going to connect it to my jit.desktop. I'm going to lock my patch, turn on my Q metro, and here, jit.desktop is screen capturing a frame of my max patch. So we're going to use this jit.p window as a preview window to help us crop our max window. What we want to do is eliminate all of the max controls from our podcasting video. So what I'm going to do is unlock my patch and drag this preview window up to what's going to be the visible area of my patch. And there, and while it's there, we can work on cropping the output of our video. Now, to crop the output of our video, we need another object. We need to unlock our patch and access the attributes of jit.desktop with an attrui object. We're going to connect this attrui object to jit.desktop. And we're also going to bring this into the visible area of our patch so that we can crop our max window successfully. All right. And so we're going to drag everything over. Notice that for cropping, I'm positioning my max window in what's going to be in the visible frame of your video. All right, so I'm going to lock my patch and select desktop rectangle. All right. You'll notice that my screen resolution is available in the last two number boxes by default. The first two number boxes are for cropping your video. I've experimented with this a little and found that the following numbers have worked for me. These numbers may not work for you, so experiment until you've eliminated all of the patcher controls from your video. All right, so I'm going to enter in my first number box the number 45, and in my second number box the number 80. And you noticed that when I did that, the max controls have disappeared from my preview window. All right, I've noticed that my text is totally off screen, so I need to bring my text up into the visible area of my video, my website, my hashtag. All right, let's check. Let's see. All right, let me increase the size of the preview window and see if my text appears. Okay, it looks like psycheopera.com gets cut off a little, so I'm going to scooch it in. Let's unlock. I'm going to scooch it in, and I'm going to pinch in my oscilloscope as well. Let's take a look. Okay, it looks like I got psycheopera.com in. I may have to center my logo again because I've resized things a bit. Let me see. Let me take this off screen and let me see if it looks centered. It looks pretty centered. Okay. See, it's very, very useful to have this preview window. for cropping. Okay, I'm going to take a moment and save my work. Save, save, save. Okay, now that we're successfully screen capturing the material that we want, we're going to create a module that records our screen capture. I'm going to unlock my patch and I'm going to eliminate our preview window. We don't need it anymore. Don't keep it. It's going to slow down your CPU. Jitter matrices work with your CPU and not with your GPU. Jit.gl objects work with your GPU. So keep that in mind. Remove anything that is redundant. Okay, so I'm going to turn off my Q Metro for a moment, and we're going to bring in the main object of our screen recording module. And that object is called jit.vcr. Now, jit.vcr needs to know what the resolution of your video is going to be. And so it's going to match the resolution that's in jit.desktop. In my case, it's 1280 to 720. jit.vcr requires two commands. Write. When you click on write, it'll open up your Finder or your File Explorer and will allow you to name your video file. The second command that it needs is stop. And this stops your recording. Now you'll notice that jit.vcr has three inputs. The first two inputs are for your audio, all right? And the last input receives information from jitter matrices. So we're gonna hook the output from jit.desktop to the last input of jit.vcr. Now, we could potentially just bring in patch cables from our ADC tilde straight into jit.vcr. But remember, your microphone isn't going to be the only sound in your podcast. You're going to have intro music, you're going to have bumper music, you're going to have words from sponsors and sound effects. And all of that has to be mixed properly in order for your podcast to sound good. So rather than take patch cables from my ADC and go directly into left, right, into jit.vcr, we're going to bring in a mixer. So we're going to scrub to the side and go to Beep plugins. We're going to type in mixer, and we're going to bring in a stereo mixer. This mixer will provide us with more than enough channels for our podcast. And so we're going to have our microphone come in left and right. And then we're going to go left and right into jit.vcr. Nice. Channel 2 will be reserved for the playlist tilde that will contain our intro music, our bumper music, and any other samples that we want. And then we'll have two extra channels for other things. In another episode, I will set up a compressor with your microphone so that we are controlling the peaks and overall level of the voice so that we can properly mix all of the audio elements of our podcast together. Okay, I'm going to make sure that none of my control panel stuff is going to appear in my video. Let's make sure. Okay, everything looks clean. Okay, so now we're going to make a sample recording. Oh, before we make a test recording, we need to set up jit.vcr within a tree object so that we can define the video codec. Okay, so I'm going to bring in an Atrui object again for jit.vcr. And I'm going to lock my patch, select codec, and you'll see a pull-down menu. I'm going to leave it on H.264. H.264 selected on the right. Now H.264 is my codec. The file extension that it wants to use is .mov, the QuickTime file extension. Okay, upon closing and reopening my patch, I noticed that my tree object was cleared of all of the crop values and my resolution values. So I want to make sure that my settings are loaded with the patch. This is very important. So I'm going to bring in a pack object. and type in 4 zeros with spaces in between them. That means we're creating a list with 4 values, no decimal points next to the zeros because we're just dealing with integers. We're going to connect the output of pack into my Arturi, which is set to the rectangle attribute of jit.desktop. And we're going to create messages for pack with the values that we need. So let's start with our cropping values, 45, 80, and then the resolution of my video, 1280 by 720. Let's get these, make sure it doesn't come out in our video. All right, and now we're going to use a bang to trigger all of these messages. And we're going to connect this bang to our load bang, the one we set up during episode 1. All right, so these values will now automatically load when you open your patch. Okay, now let's make a sample recording. Okay, let's click on write. Test recording. I'm going to save it to my desktop. Save. When I click on the Q Metro, the recording will begin. So I'm going to scrub over to what I want people to see in my video. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, I'm done. So let's stop the recording. Stop. So I'm going to scrub over to what I want people to see in my video. Hello, 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 hello. Okay, I'm done. So let's stop the recording. Okay, so we've created a successful recording, but we're not done with the recording module just yet. As you saw, maneuvering to the recording module got captured in our video, and we absolutely don't want that. We want to avoid having to use any other pieces of software to edit the video after it's been recorded. So we're going to set up a keyboard trigger for our recording module so that we can start and stop our podcast recording with our spacebar. So before we set up our spacebar as our trigger, I want to point something out. I noticed during the video editing process that my sample recording captured a little sliver of the Max window frame. So what I did was scrub, was increase my top crop from 45 to 47, and that fixed the problem. Okay, so now let's set up spacebar to start and stop our recording while we are in frame. Okay, we're going to unlock our patch. Oops. Going to unlock our patch and bring in a key object. This reads the output of your computer keyboard. And the module that we build with the key object is going to be used moving forward in this tutorial series. Let's set up our key object with a number box. I'm going to bring in a select object and start my select list with the number 32. The number 32 corresponds to spacebar. So every time I tap on my spacebar, select will send out a message called bang. Then I'm going to count the bangs with a counter. And I just want to count between the numbers 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm going to give counter the argument 1 space 2. I'm going to bring another number box so that we can see our count. So as I tap on spacebar, you see that it's just counting 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Okay. I'm going to bring in another select object. And I'm going to say select from this list, 1 space 2. And every time my count displays 1, it'll send out a bang out of this first outlet. And every time select receives number 2, it will send out a bang out of the second outlet. The outlets of the outlets of select correspond to the numbers in your list. This first outlet is for the number 1 in your list. This second outlet is for the number 2 in your list. If there were more items in my list, there would be more outlets. You do not want to use the last outlet of your select object. The bangs that correspond to these trigger messages that have the following in them: 0, 4, off, and I'm going to set that up with output number 2 of my select object and a message that says 1 that corresponds to on, and I'm going to set that up with my first outlet of select. Okay, so what are these 1s and 0s turning on and off? We don't want to send them directly to the Q Metro. We want to send them to another toggle-like object. We're going to bring in an object called LED. This LED object has 2 functions. It's going to help control my Q Metro toggle and also send a 0 message to my stop. But it's also going to serve as a recording indicator. So let's set this thing up. 1, 0. I'm going to lock the patch. When I press spacebar, LED turns on. Press it again, LED turns off. Again, press spacebar, LED turns on. Press spacebar again, LED turns off. All right. So we're going to hook that up to Q Metro. Press spacebar, LED turns on, and so does Q Metro. And when I press spacebar again, LED turns off, and so does Q Metro. But we're not done yet. We're going to need another select object, and we're going to say select 0. When this LED initiates an off message, we want that to be sent to the stop on our jit.vcr. Okay, now we're all set up for recording. So the recording process goes as follows. Before you press your spacebar, you'd click on write, name your file, okay, press OK, and then navigate up to your recording window, press spacebar, and then your recording begins. But before we do that, let's set up our LED on the top left corner of our recording area so that we know when we're recording and when we're not recording. Let's lock our patch and see what this looks like. Oh, we see ugly patch cables. Well, we know how to eliminate those. We highlight our patch cables, go to the top menu, go to Object, and click Hide Unlock. So I'm going to do that for all of my LED patch cables. Okay, let's lock our patch window and see if we got them all. Okay, we got all our patch cables. Now we could leave our LED alone and have it there in the corner with its little box frame, but I don't want that. I want to eliminate the box frame. I want the box frame of the LED to kind of blend with my black background. All I want to see is the indicator light on the LED. So what I'm going to do is unlock my patch, click on LED, and go to my inspector. All right. And you see here in the background color area, I'm going to click on that and take it from gray to black so that it blends perfectly with my background. Okay, I'm going to lock my patch. And as you can see, all we see is the LED indicator circle, and this is what it looks like when it's on. Okay, LED indicator on. So we know we're recording, and we're going to turn it off. All right, let's save. Save, save, save. All right, let's create a recording. I'm going to scrub to my recording module. I'm going to click write. And I'm going to name this test. Not text, test. I'm going to save it onto my desktop. Save. And before I press spacebar, I'm going to scrub to my recording area. Notice that the LED indicator is off. I am not recording at this time. Move my mouse out of the way, and I'm going to press spacebar. Okay, so you notice that you did not see me navigating from my recording module to this recording window. That's because my spacebar is now initiating my recording. And notice that my LED indicator is up here all lit up, telling me that I am indeed recording. Well, thank you very much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. I will see you in episode 3.